Hey, it's T. So favorites. I try not to buy too many products, I guess. I like to stick with the things that I already like and know about. So this is probably going to be more of a media heavy kind of yearly favorites. But I am going to start off with some products that I did like. I talked about this earlier this year. I was looking for a new sunscreen, one that didn't cause a white cast and also didn't break me out. I really like the Skin 1004. 1004. Okay, we're just gonna show the product. No white cast, not greasy, works for my skin personally, doesn't dry me out. When I mentioned that none of these people are paying me, they're not. Don't think that I'm being paid for any of this, please. And then I have one kind of tech product. I've been wanting noise canceling headphones for a long time, like 3-4 years. I also did not want to spend $200, $300, $400 on headphones. It's. I know that it's like, oh, if you spend that amount of money, you're actually getting what you want for the product. I can't justify it. But I did see these on TikTok. This was around the time that a lot of people were like doing their kind of UGC ads for this. But these are the JLab. I think they're called the JLab J-Buds noise canceling headphones. Active noise canceling headphones. I mostly got them because they were purple. I've seen a lot of reviews on them. Apparently they're not as good as the $200 ones, of course, but for what they are, they're pretty good. Like, a lot of the times I'll have these on and someone will walk up to me and I will be scared because I don't realize what's happening around me, which is not good. I don't use these outside of the house, by the way. Yeah, I like the noise cancellation. They're pretty comfortable on my ears. I will say they're not as great for like super long-term wear. I think after about an hour or two, they start to like really press in, but I feel like that's really hard to avoid with over the head headphones. A more affordable option, because they're not like $30, $40, right? If you're looking for a more affordable option, like you can definitely look at the kind of tech reviewers online to see if these would work for you. Okay, so on to the real meat and potatoes of the year. I really wanted to watch more movies this year. Like that was my New Year's resolution, and I think I succeeded. But I want to watch more movies next year too. So for my movie favorites, my first one was They Cloned Tyrone. This one is a 2023 movie. I watched it in January. For each of these movies, I'm just going to give the quick summary that Google gives. A series of eerie events thrusts an unlikely trio onto the trail of a nefarious government conspiracy. I watched it and it blew me away. It was really smart writing. It's been so long since I've watched a comedy and actually laughed, which may or may not be sad to say. I really want more black sci-fi. I like, also John Boyega is perfect in this movie. I really wanted to make it a point this year to watch the Oscar contenders. I didn't get to every single one, but I got to a lot of them. And the ones that really stood out for me were The Holdovers, first of all. I didn't watch it during Christmas. I watched it in early February. It was nostalgic and like funny and heartwarming in a way that I really like miss from a good Christmas movie, I guess. It very much reminded me of the 80s movies, Trains, Planes, and Automobiles, a little bit of Home Alone, just a bunch of heartwarming performances that I really miss. I do think that I'll make it a holiday rewatch in the future. The other one that I saw was Past Lives. Past Lives. I'm going to get emotional before I even... Past Lives is about Nora and Haesung, two deeply connected childhood friends who are arrested apart after Nora's family immigrates from South Korea. And then it's the story of how they meet again. I cried so hard. I cried really hard. It felt kind of like a play at times. It was almost like a nostalgia for something that I've never experienced. I think that the movie did really well in drawing up that emotion. Also, if my phone is like flashing back and forth, it's because I am reading my little blurbs. A movie that didn't get a lot of awards buzz, but I think should have, was The Iron Claw. It was also a 2023 movie about the Von Erich brothers, who made history in the highly competitive world of professional wrestling in the early 80s. Anyone, like a lot of people who know about the story know that it's extremely tragic. Apparently they played down some of the tragedy in the movie. Incredibly heartbreaking. I was kind of scared to get into it just because, no offense to Zac Efron, but there's a certain amount of work done that an actor can get before it gets distracting, and I was afraid of being distracted. And I say that to say that I was able to get over it because his performance was so good. Everyone's performance was great in this movie. Also cried like a baby. Just, I can't say anything more than that. Oh, I think this was probably my favorite movie of the year. Monster by Hirokazu Koreeda. A single mother demands answers from a school teacher when her son begins acting strangely. It's not a great synopsis. I went into it without knowing what I was getting into. Once I started to realize what the movie was about and what kind of themes we were dealing with, I think I said halfway through the movie, this is my favorite movie of the year. I really like the way that Koreeda tells stories. I've seen, I think, 2 or 3 of his movies now. It's a very, slow burn. It takes time to pay respect to the subject matter. It's an incredibly moving movie. I think that Koreeda is really good at capturing children's point of view and putting and respecting them in a way. In October, I made it a point to watch a horror movie every day. I didn't succeed completely, but I also moved on October 15th. I got through 28 movies, which should be enough. I mostly watched older movies, 2 movies that I really liked. One of them was Cuckoo. Follows a teenager who moves to the German Alps to live with her father, but becomes disturbed by strange occurrences as her father's boss embroils her family in a sinister plot. I don't know, when I was watching it, without giving too much away, I was extremely surprised that they were making the choices that they were making. I think even if someone didn't like this movie, I find the approach to the genre and what they were trying to do refreshing. I don't know, I watched it and I was like, I don't think I've seen a lot of movies do this. I really liked it. For better or for worse, I think it really adds to the movie, certainly. And I think just Hunter Schafer is great in it. And the other one, this one is considered a classic, and I haven't seen it, even though I made it a point when I was a teenager to try and watch as many Japanese classics as possible, Japanese classic horror movies. Noroi the Curse. It is a found footage film about a curse. The first 30 minutes I was like, what's going on? It's a very slow burn. You're kind of a little confused at the beginning, and then it starts making sense at the end. It was a wild ride. New favorite horror movie, definitely. Definitely worth it if you haven't seen it, if you like Japanese horror. Oh, and I have 2 special mentions. One of them is The Wailing. Apparently, I have already seen The Wailing. I did not know that I have already seen The Wailing. It's been on my list to see for years. I think what happened is I saw it when it came out, but I saw it on the internet when there were no subs, or barely any subs, and also when it was in 360p on one of the sites. I probably was trying so hard to listen and try and use my knowledge of Korean and also Japanese, because there's Japanese in it, refreshing the page because it kept buffering, that I didn't really see the movie. And so I watched it again because it was on Netflix, I believe. Incredible movie. It was one of those movies where I've seen it before, technically. I was on the edge of my seat. There's a scene that happens in the daytime. I was so far forward in my seat that I literally had to sit back. I had to correct myself. I don't know if I can give a synopsis for that one either. Villagers invest in a mysterious new stranger and the killings that arrive with him. I find it really interesting the different ways in which Korean media, movies, TV talk about the Japanese imperialism. To put it in a horror movie and to convey it in this kind of way is really interesting. I can't say too much about it because I don't live that life, and I feel like I'm not educated enough. I have a little bit of education on it, but not enough. It's really interesting to see, especially in the context of a horror movie. And then the other special mention is Challengers. There were a lot of things that I could say about the movie. Like, I had some critiques. The acting was great. The acting was amazing. Zendaya was beautiful. I think that they could have fleshed out her character better. It just hit the Fujoshi in me so hard. I was like, yes. That's the only thing I can say about it. The same thing with Saltburn. I think it just, there's a worm in here. I'm sorry. Television. First is Pokemon Concierge. I watched this in January. The only thing I can say about it is it's so cute. I really have been wanting something like the Rilakuma 3D animation that came out a while back, but with Pokemon, like something slice of lifey, relaxing. I really love that vibe from animation especially. It's just a very cute watch, very short. I think it's like 5 episodes, something like that. Yeah, I hope they make more. I have an interview with a vampire truther, and I need everyone to watch it. The second season came out. Beautiful, incredible, amazing. I will say it's only if you like vampire things. There are some horror elements. There's definitely blood. I won't say there were a lot of jump scares, but there's definitely blood and gore and, the things that come with vampires. But it's incredibly beautiful. I love that they actually went ahead and were like, this story is gay, because the 90s movie would not go that far. I was a little cautious going into it because I wasn't sure how they were going to handle the race swapping of Louis. I was like, I don't know how this is gonna go. The choice was incredible, beautiful. Like, Jacob Anderson is incredible. I think that he should be getting awards, so many awards. The second season, the main actress who plays Claudia had to leave, so they replaced her, and I actually thought that I would be more weirded out by the replacement, but I will say that Delaney Hayes, the strength of her performance was enough for me to not be as disappointed. She brought something different to the character that I think was an interesting interpretation, and I also think with the addition, I've seen people talk about this, but the addition of the whole series is about memory and how memories can change, and even in non-humans is extremely faulty. The casting change makes sense, even story-wise. Just beautiful, beautiful writing. If you haven't seen the first season, the pilot is one of the best pilots I think I've ever seen. And I had to watch a lot of pilots in school. And then Arcane season 2. I really liked Arcane. Really like the series as a whole. I love the art. The first season was incredible. I also really liked the second season. I think that it also had a lot of problems, mostly due to the fact that it only had 8 episodes, and then they ended the storyline. I do think that it could have used 3 more episodes or even another season, but I also understand why writers who are writing for Netflix shows are rushing storylines now in order to get to a storyline end, because I feel like a lot of the times they're just preparing for Netflix to cancel their show, and it's unfortunate. I definitely think that the second season needed more character development, but as a whole, I think it was a stellar job, even based off of an IP that I don't enjoy personally. I was able to push past that and really engage in the story as a whole on its own. My special mention for TV is Mask Girl on Netflix. It's a K-drama miniseries thriller based off a webtoon. I really liked it. I don't have much to say about it besides the fact that it was a really good, it had cliffhangers essentially at the end of every episode. I will say that you need to look up some trigger warnings if you're a sensitive viewer. I also watched for Nana, former idol, and the love of my life. But she was not in the entirety of the series. And still, with that, I really, really enjoyed it. It was a critique of Korean beauty standards. Okay, podcasts. I really like music history. I've always liked music history. I liked watching music documentaries. I used to watch Behind the Music and docu episodes on MTV and VH1 and things like that. And so I started listening to this podcast called 60 Songs That Explain the 90s in 2020. Eventually the podcast got extended. He went to 90 episodes and then 120. The episodes got longer. And then this year they came back and started doing 60 Songs That Explain the 90s except it's the 2000s. They've done Work It by Missy Elliott. They've done Linkin Park in the End. They've done Complicated by Avril Lavigne. Just great nostalgia fare. For me personally, the sounds of my childhood and also tweenhood. I also really just enjoy the host. He's a journalist. He's got that kind of quirky Gen X white guy vibe, uncomplicated and self-aware. I also think that if you've never listened to the series, I recommend the episodes from the 90s part of the podcast, but also it's just like a really good podcast overall. There's a podcast that I listened to probably when it first came out, which was a couple of years ago. It's called Authentic, The Story of Tableau. It's a short miniseries. I think it's about 5 to 7 episodes at most. It is about a member of the Korean hip-hop group Epic High. His stage name is Tableau. They debuted in 2001. They had a lot of success. And then a rumor was spread in 2009, 2010 or so that essentially almost ruined his career. And in his words, kind of ruined his family's life. It's just a really interesting breakdown of it. At the time, I was getting into Korean entertainment in around 2010, and I didn't really know what was going on. So it was interesting to like look back at that. But also, I think even if you're not into like Korean music or anything like that, it's a really interesting look at virality, at internet bullying, at disinformation and the way that it can ruin lives. That in and of itself is a great reason to listen to the podcast. They're very, very respectful. I think Tableau himself is in maybe a couple of episodes, if not the whole thing. Yes, great breakdown of that kind of concept of disinformation and how it can ruin not just a celebrity's life, but it can also ruin normal people's lives as well. All right, so those are my favorites of the year. Let me know if you have any thoughts. I feel bound that I don't have more tangible things to recommend. But yeah, like if you want, comment if you feel like it. And I'll catch you later.